That is so different. I usually grab the top of the wheel when I get in. There's nothing there. So the first thing you notice when you get into this car is the steering apparatus. It's a yoke, just like on jetliners. And now it's in a car, on a land vehicle. And it gets a lot of hate. People love to hate on it, on Reddit and Tesla forums, but I love it. I personally love it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It takes some getting used to. It took about 50 miles of driving to really get the hang of it. It's different, but in a good way. I've really been enjoying it so far. So, a few things to note with the yoke. It obviously it forces you to hold the wheel at the 9 and 3 o'clock positions. There's nothing up here. You can't, do the whole gangster lane and do this anymore. You actually have to drive like a race car driver with your hands in the right place. I mean, you could do this as well, but this feels natural. And then there are no stalks. They took away the stalks, so everything has been moved to buttons on the face of the yoke. So the turn signal indicators are here, which is a little confusing at first because the left scroll wheel here is actually for controlling your music. So up and down controls your volume. Still goes to 11, just like in the old Model S. That's a reference to Spinal Tap. Hurry up to 11. You press to play, and then press again to pause, and then left right is to skip. I'll go previous and next on your playlist. Not my playlist, it's my wife's playlist. Let's stop that. Yeah, stop the music, sorry. So it gets a little confusing because you go left and right to skip tracks. But then to the left of that you have left and right arrows. So I've actually done this a few times accidentally trying to skip a track and then found out that it was a turn signal. That takes a little getting used to, but now it feels natural. So left turn signal, obviously you press the left arrow button. There's two ways to do this. So lightly rest your finger on the button and then release. That's equivalent to just holding the stalk down and releasing it, like say to make a lane change. So you're gonna turn left at a light, you give it a harder press, and then it stays on. And then just like a regular stock, when you make a full turn or a sharper turn and then come back to center, it cancels. So it is auto canceling. But if you happen to forget, like this, it'll just keep clicking away until you notice that it's going, and you cancel it manually just like that. So that takes some getting used to. The first 50 miles coming home from Dallas, I was constantly doing this. That old motion where you take your, you pivot your hand off the wheel and catch the stalk as you're turning. That motion that you kind of learn becomes muscle memory, where you just pivot your hand off the wheel and flick the stalk whichever way you want to go. Now it's just your thumbs. So I like it because you never have to take your hands off the wheel at all. There's no pivot motion. You just keep your fingers wrapped around the wheel. Not a wheel, a yoke. I'm still getting used to that. And then you just do that. It's very intuitive now. Not that there's anything wrong with a traditional wheel and stock, but this is something new and nice. I've gotten used to it, and I think it's great. Not to say that traditional steering wheels with the turn signal stock are outdated and not as functional. It's just It's apples to oranges, in my opinion. So in a nutshell, this thing gets a lot more hate than it deserves. I mean, look at this. It's a sharp turn, and it felt natural to me. It's probably gonna feel weird getting back into the other cars and having a full circle steering wheel. So back to the controls on the Yoke. There's the high beam. If you rest your finger on it, yep, there's a high beam, it's on. You press hard, it'll activate the automatic high beam. Let's get on the highway here. I want to turn off, I don't like the automatic high beam being on, so I'm just going to tap out of it. There we go. The horn is this guy, just like that. Just a thumb's reach away. You can. That's one thing I really love about this thumb horn is that if you're, say you're in the middle of a turn, you don't have to take your hand off the wheel and off the center of the horn, the center of the steering device, the Yoke wheel, whatever. It reminds me of my 2001 Audi S4. The center was just an airbag like this, and then the horn was just the sides of the airbag. So you could actually activate the horn with either thumb, which I loved because if I was, again, mid-turn and someone gave me a reason to honk at them, I could just take either thumb and just honk. So this is a nice throwback to that. Wiper controls are here. So you tap that, and that gives you all the options there. You select them with the left scroll wheel. Just leave it on auto. You can also rest your finger on the button to have it wipe, and then press hard to spray. So we got voice command, cover the windshield, wiper controls. So this is a little confusing. The autopilot control is this scroll wheel. It's got a light up indicator above it, which looks like a button, but it's really not. I spent the first time activating autopilot in this car just pressing that button, thinking, what the heck's happening? And what it is it's just telling you that this is the autopilot control. Okay, so this little Yoke icon here is telling you that autopilot is available. So you tap the button, and there we go. Keep your hands on the Yoke. So they actually changed the language in the car to reflect the fact that this is not a steering wheel. Nice attention to detail there. And then as the Yoke turns, that icon actually turns with it, which is pretty slick. And then it nags you there. Keep your hands on the Yoke. So one way to do it is just to keep a hand there like that. But most people I know just go hands-free and then just touch the wheel or Yoke whenever he complains. So that's autopilot. Here's where you would use this wheel to adjust the maximum speed. So this is very similar to the Model 3 and Model Y. You use the right scroll wheel to adjust your autopilot settings. I believe left and right adjust the following distance. Actually, no, it doesn't. The following distance now is set by going here and actually doing the plus or minus thing here. So that's different. I wonder what the left and right is even for here then. That's weird. A lot of people have asked me, so what's the Yoke like in tight turns? So like in a parking lot, it is really not that bad. So I'm gonna make this sharp turn. I'll just let my left hand, follow the turn there and take my right hand away. Otherwise, it's gonna be twisted up over here. So like this, I mean, just let your left hand take over, and then to go the other direction, do that, and you have more to go. I mean, that's full lock right there. So if you want to make the sharpest turn possible, there is going to be some hand over hand action, like with the traditional wheel. But again, it's not. See, that was not bad at all. Not bad at all. I've seen some other videos of people who are doing sharp turns with the yoke, and they do it a little differently. I see them doing this number here, where they kind of grab onto the flat bottom, and then it looks all awkward. If that works for you, great. But for me, you can do the hand over hand thing just like this and catch the sides of the yoke, and it feels just fine.